Amplify is back. Don't miss the chance to improve every part of your business by connecting with industry experts, hearing best practices from top dealerships, and learning how to optimize your system for profitability at every turn. You don't want to miss the Amplify experience that is designed to help your dealership improve.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Monday, June 23rd, 2025. I'm Jamie Butters, Executive Editor of Automotive News in Detroit.
And I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today on the show, Filosa keeps the reins on the crucial North America business. Toyota raises prices in the US. And Tesla starts running robo-taxis in small numbers. Plus, Stellantis chairman John Elkann discusses his family's legacy and the state of the global auto industry.
I think that we are in a very interesting moment for the European Union in terms of what it wants to do.
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry.
Stellantis has a new CEO as of today. Antonio Filosa officially took over and named his leadership team. Most top executives remain in their current roles. One notable exception is Maxime Picat, the head of purchasing and a former head of the Europe region, who is leaving the company. The new purchasing chief is Monica Genovese, who has been with Fiat since 1995. Perhaps most important, Filosa is retaining responsibility as the head of the North America region and the traditional American brands, Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and Chrysler. The leadership team includes a total of 13 members. CFO Doug Osterman will take responsibility for M&A and joint ventures, and Jean-Philippe Imparato will remain as head of Europe and European brands, including Maserati.
Toyota said it will raise prices for some vehicles sold in the U.S. by an average of $270 starting in July. The automaker's decision follows President Donald Trump's imposition of a 25% tariff on imported vehicles and auto parts. But a Toyota spokesperson denied the tariff directly influenced the price increase. The latest price hike is part of our regular review of the prices, Toyota spokesperson Nobu Sanaga said June 21st. Prices for Lexus models, Toyota's luxury brand, would also increase by an average of $208, he said. Mitsubishi, Subaru, Ford, and Tesla are among the brands that have recently signaled price increases.
The UAW's leadership is mired in turmoil over allegations of an investment blunder that officials say cost the union about $80 million in potential gains from its financial portfolio. That's according to 7 UAW officials and employees and union documents reviewed by Reuters. The investment funds were liquidated to pay striking workers in 2023, but weren't reinvested for more than a year, according to the documents and the UAW officials and staffers who spoke on condition of anonymity. The details of the investment dispute at the union, including the estimate of foregone gains, had not previously been reported. The loss is an estimate of what the union could have earned had the money been invested in the stock market and other assets in accordance with the union's policy during that time.
And Tesla launched its robotaxi service with a small pilot in Austin, Texas, for investors and social media influencers who gushed over CEO Elon Musk's long-delayed moonshot to cement the company's future as an AI and robotics powerhouse. The June 22nd launch, with a dozen or so autonomous Tesla Ys, appeared to go without any major problems, according to the invitation-only riders and their posts on social media. The Tesla robotaxis operated in the city alongside autonomous taxis from rival Waymo. During the Sunday event, social media posts by Tesla influencers showed a typical ride-hailing experience using a smartphone app similar to Uber. The robotaxi didn't have a safety driver, but did have a safety monitor in the front passenger seat, the post showed. And those are today's headlines. So, Jamie, Antonio Filosa starts today as the new CEO of Stellantis. Much of his top executives will remain in their current roles, but one thing that is interesting, Filosa is retaining his responsibility as head of the North America region. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was probably the biggest decision he had to make in how he wanted to arrange his team. And on one hand, I would look at it and think North America is the biggest challenge, the biggest opportunity. that he maybe could use some more help there. But I think he's done so much work over the past 6 months or so to repair relations with dealers and with suppliers. He really wants to stay focused there, maintain those relationships, not try to, hand them off to a new COO. So it makes some sense. We've seen this kind of thing in the industry before. We'll see if he can keep that rolling and get the company back on track. Obviously, Jeep and Ram are the most important brands. When this company makes money, it's on the strength of those brands. So he's got to stay really tight with those dealers and those operations.
Gotcha. Coming up, Stellantis chairman John Elkann discusses his family's legacy and the state of the industry with automotive news publisher Casey Crane. That's next on Daily Drive.
Daily Drive listeners like you have access to the lowest price for Automotive News Congress 2025 on September 11th.
The event is where the industry's biggest players tackle its toughest challenges. Congress attendees don't just follow the industry, they lead it.
This year's featured speakers include Hyundai Motor Group Executive Chair Yusin Chung and General Motors CEO Mary Barra.
We are investing in America. We're creating jobs. That's creating IP in this country. And I think, the United States needs to lead in key technologies.
Join us to gain the insights and connections needed to steer your business through massive change.
To get the lowest price for the event, go to autonews.com/events, select Auto News Congress, and type in the discount code Daily Drive, one word, all caps. We'll see you in September in Detroit.
Amplify 2025 is right around the corner. Are you ready? Join the industry's leading innovators this August 18th and 19th at the Ritz-Carlton Dallas Las Colinas and be part of the event that will reshape retail automotive. At this 2-day experience, you'll explore new strategies and fresh ideas for driving real growth at your dealership. Choose from 9 hands-on workshops, each designed to deliver practical insights across every department. Gain forward-thinking perspectives during our expert-led keynote session and leave with actionable takeaways to implement right away. And it's not all business. Amplify also gives you the chance to connect with fellow professionals on the greens at TPC Las Colinas, the iconic course that hosted the PGA Tour's Byron Nelson Championship for 35 years. Secure your spot at Amplify 2025 today by visiting rayrey.com/amplify. That's REYREY.com/amplify today.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Jamie Butters with Kellen Walker. As part of Automotive News Centennial Year in 2025, we've been celebrating individuals and families that have shaped the industry over its past and into the future. The Agnelli family founded Fiat and grew it into one of the world's largest automakers. This month, Automotive News publisher Casey Crane interviewed John Elkann, chairman of Stellantis and the great-great-grandson of Fiat co-founder Giovanni Agnelli. They spoke in Turin, Italy at the Automotive News Europe Congress. Here's part of their conversation.
You just named a new CEO. Antonio Filosa is a seasoned executive with deep experience in North and South America. I'm assuming, and you only hinted at a couple of interviews you did for this job, but what made him the right leader at this time, given all the pressures and all the challenges he's going to be facing? And what are some of the expectations?
We went under a very thorough process, and Antonio ended up being unanimously the choice that the board of Stellantis made. I believe that Antonio has a very strong empathy, and he's very good with people. And our company is a company that's very large, very much spread, and having a leader who understands people and is able to understand people across many different cultures is a strength. Because at the end of the day, any organization and Stellantis are made of people. Antonio's ability in understanding what we do, from how a car is being engineered, designed, manufactured, sold, is important. Because if you are running a car company, you need to know what you're doing. And you need to be passionate about what you're doing, which he is. And ultimately, we want to build great cars to delight our customers. And having your CEO who really knows that, wants that, is important. And lastly, we are getting in a world which is shifting our industry from being a global industry to being a multi-regional industry. And the experience that Antonio had running Argentina, running Brazil, running South America, and recently running North America is very much in phase with how the world is going between regulations, tariffs, how you ultimately navigate that constructively with political forces.
It's interesting how you talk about, multi-regions, because, if we're thinking about Stellantis, you'd say there's two distinct, regulatory trade ecosystems with Europe and the U.S., with lots of talks about tariffs on both sides of the Atlantic. How do you balance, and again, let's call it a multi-regional, how do you balance, these many markets as an enterprise?
Well, I'd say if you take now the biggest car markets in the world, China, and by the way, China in 25 will be bigger than Europe and the US combined, right? So you're really seeing that the large markets, which are both markets and also industrial bases for the car industry, and it's China, it's the US, it's Europe, it's Japan, it's Brazil, it's India, just to take the larger ones, you're really seeing a very specific focus on ensuring that they are very much within their confines. So I think what is very relevant in leading a car company today is really understanding that, Casey.
John, we've been covering so much of the, European policy. We're in the news business. And there's been a lot of talk about whether or not European policymakers are doing enough to protect the competitiveness of the European auto industry. Again, EV mandates, inflationary pressures, global competition. How do you feel about what's happening?
I think that we are in a very interesting moment for the European Union in terms of what it wants to do in the car industry. And I was looking at the chairman of ANFIA, Mr. Vavasori. He's been acting very strongly at the European level for really trying to get reason. So I'll just give you a couple of important points. Like if you look at at the regulation, we're going to face from now to 2030 120 new regulations coming in. If you actually look at our engineers, more than 25% just work on compliance, so no value add. If you actually look at the cost increase in a car, that has primarily been driven by regulation. So a Fiat 500, the first generation, was more or less 400 kilos. The one we're now producing is 3 times as heavy. And of course, if you equate weight, is definitely not very good for the environment, because more weight you have in a car, more energy you ultimately have to consume. So what we think is that you need to have smart regulation, and we need to learn from others in how you make smart regulation. And that is, Casey, hitting very much the core of what the European industry, the car industry, used to do. I mean, we have been strong in building small cars and giving access to mobility to many. And if you think in 2019, you had 49 cars that were sold in Europe under 15,000 euros. How many do you think there are now in 2025?
Single digits.
How many?
I know the answer. Yeah.
One. And we used to sell in 2019 1 million cars under 15K. And now we're basically selling less than 100,000. And you know that Europe is the only market that has not recovered where it was pre-COVID.
We talk a little bit more about that. We had a guest from Toyota this morning talking about the K car in Japan, and you get an affordable small car. Could Europe do with its own version of that?
Well, I think Europe should have an e-car.
An e-car?
Europe should definitely have an e-car, and there's no reason why, if Japan has a K car, which is 40% of the market, Europe should not have an e-car.
And you hinted at that with Mr. DeMeo in a conversation not long ago. Can it become a reality?
I think that Luca De Meo and Renault, and by the way, also Volkswagen, and the name Volkswagen is very telling of what they were meant to do, is important that the European Union and the major countries that build cars, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, are really conscious about how you can use smartly regulation. And you could create a new category as an e-car, and it can be environmental, so it actually is good for the environment. It can be economical, so it's actually affordable. It can be European, and it can be built in Europe, because ultimately, if you are able to get the right regulation, it can not only be built in Europe, but bought in Europe, like the K car, because there's many benefits for Japanese customers to buy K cars. And lastly, it should be emotional. It should be exciting, because there's no reason why a car that has a lower price should be not exciting. We've built incredibly exciting cars. We continue building incredibly exciting cars, small cars. The one we sell most in Italy is the Pandina. And I was speaking with our colleague who runs Italy. I don't know where she is, but we'd love to think of doing a new generation of Pandina to be as exciting and affordable as the one that we've done. And that was a car started in the 70s. In the 70s, in Europe, we had the crisis linked to energy, and affordability was really an important point. And smart engineers with great designers built a car that has been so successful and iconic. And that, I think, is something that is really in the mind of policymakers and political power. We think there is an opportunity.
I love the e-car. I want one. When can I get one?
You need to ask Mr. Valassori if he thinks that the regulation in Europe and in our countries will allow this. But we have put you as the first buyer of our e-car.
Okay, deal. Let's stay on that topic. Lightweight, energy efficient. Over the last decade, we watched car makers go crazy around electric vehicles. The amount of capital, making promises that nobody knew if they were going to be able to keep, infrastructure that couldn't keep up at all. You continue to make electrification a centerpiece for Stellantis' growth strategy. What's driving that investment? And do you feel like there's enough support around you to see it through?
We have in program 40 launches of fully electric cars. Our commitment to electrification as a company is very strong, and we also are committed on different parts of it with large projects on gigafactories to build batteries, which is ultimately the key component of electric cars, because cars in the combustion era used to create energy and consume energy. In the electric world, they just consume energy and accumulate it. We believe that, we need to make sure that we provide cars that customers want. And so we believe in the freedom to choose combustion, hybrids, electrics. Second, we think that the energy equation needs to be one that takes into account decarbonization. So if we just take Europe, 250 million cars in Europe, average age 12, countries like Greece 17. So if you were to help people change an old Euro 3 car, that's a regulation for combustion engine, and just shift to a Euro 6, not a Euro 7, Euro 6, that jump in terms of what it means for our environment is much more meaningful than going from a Euro 6 to a fully electric. Yeah. So we believe that there is a huge opportunity of addressing the environmental equation by giving people the choice to choose what they really want, and equally making sure that the regulation is such that it allows operators like us to build great cars.
Stellantis chairman John Elkann spoke with automotive news publisher Casey Crane this month in Turin, Italy. That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Jamie Butters.
And I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to Lawrence Iliff as well as Peter Siegel from our sibling publication, Automotive News Europe, for their reporting. You can get the latest news on automated driving, company leadership, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com.
Come back tomorrow for a conversation about dissatisfaction with advanced driver assistance systems.
We see in general with active driving assistance kind of an identity crisis, right? They don't see it as convenient yet because they still have to pay attention, right?
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoyed the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.